this is Sandy with All Cooked Up. Today we're going to make some homemade salsa. Susan, my sister, gave me this recipe, and she lives in Colorado, and they have an awesome vegetable garden, tons of tomatoes, and this is her recipe for salsa. You can either make a dose of it or just for that evening, or you can make a ton of it when you get a bunch of tomatoes out of the garden or from your farmer's market and make a bunch to can, which is what I'm going to do today. First thing you need to know is there are two different kinds of tomatoes. When you're going to grow your own tomatoes, when you buy your plants or get the seeds, you're going to see if they are determinate or indeterminate tomatoes. When a tomato plant is determinate, that means it is going to give you a ton of tomatoes all at once and perfect for canning. If you are going to get an indeterminate plant, that means that you are going to get tomatoes all summer long throughout the summer. So I've got a couple of both kinds in my garden. So I just got the determinate plants to come ripe, so I've got a ton of them. The other thing that you can, which is nice about this recipe, is it calls for a couple tablespoons of peppers, and I essentially just use whatever's coming out of the garden. This batch was very small pepper plants. I've got little orange ones in red and the sweet yellow. I've used green peppers too. I've got a banana pepper too. So you can definitely use any pepper that's coming out of the garden. It's a very forgiving recipe. The other thing you'll need is some dried oregano, and I just pulled that out yesterday and let it dry a little bit from the garden. It calls for a jalapeno pepper. I would definitely use one. You can use two if you want. I also typically just use one of these jalapenos and then throw in half of a habanero. That flavors it up. Our family loves spices, except for Grandma. I'll make her a different batch. So essentially what you do is you take about 6 medium-sized tomatoes, and you're going to chop them up just like this, just very chunky pieces. You don't need to be perfect about it at all, just chunk, 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 and you chop them up. And I also put the jalapeno in here and the half of the habanero. And then this is one of my favorite kitchen gadgets from Pampered Chef. You take an onion, who hates doing onions, it makes you cry, and you chop them up into bits like that. And this is 1/3 of an onion. It does not have to be perfect, and those just slide right into your recipe too, just like that. Then you're going to squeeze, which I've already done, about 4 tablespoons of lemon or lime. Doesn't matter which juice you're using. The next thing I'm going to do is just take some of my oregano that I dried from the garden. And again, you're going to use an immersion blender to make this all real smooth, so you don't have to be perfect about anything, which is perfect for me because I'm far from perfect. And that's oregano. And I'm also going to add about a teaspoon of sea salt. Pop that in there. And then one of my favorite spices is cumin. And this calls for about 1/4 of a teaspoon, so not too much, but gives it just enough of that little And that's what you do there. Get your peppers in there, and you're going to turn this on the stove with a lid on it, and it is going to cook down till everything is really mushy and soft. And it takes anywhere, it depends on the size of the batch, but you're going to cook it down until everything is real soft, and then you're going to use the immersion blender. So as soon as that is happening, we'll come back and show you how to do that. Okay, welcome back. This has been simmering in this pot for about 15 minutes or so, and everything is nice and soft and mushy and awesome. So my next favorite kitchen gadget is an immersion blender, and that's what this is. Fabulous for this kind of a use, and you can also use it for making creamy soups. which is another one of my favorite things. But basically, you just do this and go up and down. Now, if you don't have an immersion blender, you can use your blender, but you'd have to be really, really careful. You take small little batches, put it in your blender, blend it up, and then put it in another pot and transfer it. The hot liquid will kind of explode at you, so you have to be real careful in the blender. But essentially, this is what you do, and you make it a very soupy consistency. You can leave some chunks if you want, but we prefer to have it real thin and watery. So that's what you'll do, and then you'll take it and transfer it into your jars. And if you are doing some canning, then you just do the canning process. Check the link below to the All Cooked Up website for the whole recipe and further instructions on how to get this going. Enjoy the salsa.